Hey, this is through the Daily Telegraph and Fatima Kadu. Bulldogs prop Sam Hughes is set to be sidelined for at least 6 weeks. He missed last week's round one, a syndesmosis injury. Happened in the final week of the trials. He was fighting to get ready for game one, said Phil Gould. He injured his ankle against the Broncos in the second trial, came back with a grade 1 syndesmosis, which is usually 2 to 3 weeks, but apparently it's going to be closer to 5 or 6 weeks. So that's a bit of a blow for Canterbury. Good timing, though. Josh Curran comes back this week at Belmore.
Yeah, handy replacement. Josh Curran comes back. I thought Harry Hayes was really impressive last week as well. He must have re-aggravated it because what Gus is saying is true. If it's a grade 1 syndesmosis, it's normally around the 2 to 3 weeks. So he might have tweaked it again in training, trying to get back. Trying to rush it to get back for round one, and must have done something else because that's an extended 6 weeks.
Have you had it?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
it's a bugger, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's annoying, and if you do it normally when you do it once, you high chances of redoing it and doing. I did my ankle multiple times, and some, if you do the grade 1 and sort of just roll over and, you can miss a week or two. So he must have. I think he must have been at the back end of the 2 or 3 weeks potentially, and then he's maybe done it again and might have even done it a little bit worse. 6 weeks is quite an amount of time for a grade 1.
The analyst was on with Jimmy before, and he said if he was naming a team of the century, Payne Haas would be in his best prop of all time conversation. He just
have to be.
Yeah, that's a big rap. Well, Broncos coach Michael Maguire, he's determined to keep star prop Payne Haas in Brisbane for life, writes Peter Bedell and Travis Main through the Daily Telly. So they've locked up Reece Walsh to a $4.4 million upgrade, and now on the verge of upgrading centre Katoni Staggs. The Broncos will make moves to ensure Haas is not exposed to a poaching raid. He's contracted to the Broncos until the end of next year. Naturally, he's going to say this, Madge. He said, I'd love to keep Payne. I see him as a Broncos man. He definitely has an opportunity to put himself in the history books following the great props that have played at the Broncos. I know Payne appreciates the history of the club. It is also reported that Payne Haas left training early this week to aid his recovery during the holy month of Ramadan. So, of course, he wasn't eating, which made things hard. That performance the other night, wow, what a performance from Payne Haas, Scopey.
Yeah, I think they'll get this done pretty quickly. I think it's a no-brainer for both parties. Everything that I'm hearing from in and around Payne Haas is that he's just absolutely thrived under Madge.
What's the number? Oh. What is the number?
I think the question might be years now moving forward. It might not necessarily be about the number, but the security of the years. Yeah. Like if you look what Big Tino's done up at Gold Coast, does Payne want that? Or do players of his ability, and I'm talking only star players are able to do this, aware that the salary cap and the growth of the game is at an all-time high at the moment, do you pigeonhole yourself if you do these long-term deals? Like with not having the ability to continue to re-up it as the salary goes up. So right now you'd look at Payne, and I feel like the market for the top tier front rowers has been around 1 mil, 1.1. Adam Fanua-Blake, Tino Fasua-Malaawi, Payne's right up there, right? Like if we look at him, you've got to start the conversation at 1 mil, and then he's probably going to be around 1.2 at least. Judging that off, what Tino and Adam have been able to get, then you factor in his age, and then going back to it, how many years does he want?
Yeah.
If I reckon a guy like Payne will be less concerned as some other players and looking for longevity, and might back himself in shorter windows, maybe sign more money, 2-year deal. So he might get 1.4.
Wow.
Something like that, but he gets it for 2 years.
Yes, I understand.
And then he gets to 2027 or 2027, 28 again, and the cap's gone up dramatically, and then he goes, all right, my number's 1.8 now.
Yeah.
The game's thriving at the moment.
Of course it is.
And you'd be crazy if you didn't have the talent to consider something like that moving forward.
Let me ask you this. So with these long-term deals, he won't get a 10-year deal because he's 26 at the end of the year, still young, but they're going to sign a front row for 10 years, are they, at his age? To 36.
Well, if there's one after Tino's already done it, he's gone out and got that huge. Did he get 6 or 7 years, Tino? How many years can you have a look for that for us, Mitchie? If there is a player that you'd take a punt and do the sort of Jason Tomalolo deal where you go, all right, right now he's clearly the best front rower in the game. He's probably going to play his best footy in the next 3 or 4 years. So the continuation 4 years after that is going to be a reward for what he's done, and the contract might not look as great by the back end. He's a player that for sure you'd consider it with, but I'd be so reluctant as a club for anyone, for any player, apart from probably Nathan Cleary.
Okay, so let's talk long-term deals. Like say 10 years, 8 years, even 7 years, maybe even 6 years.
Yeah.
In the NFL, there's a bigger recycling of running backs purely because their job is so much about the brutality and the physicality of their style of play, right? Same could be said for a front rower, I suppose, versus, say, a halfback. Do you think it's fair to say that a 10-year deal or a long-term deal, let's call it that, 7 years or further, is far riskier for a Payne Haas, Tino Fasuamala-Awi versus a Daly Cherry Evans or a Dylan Brown?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the wear and tear.
Yeah.
It's, if he continues on the path, now I think Madge did a great job with him by only playing him in shorter stints compared, and maybe the Ramadan was a factor in that as well, where, Kevy would leave him out there for sometimes 60 to... There were times where he played 80 minutes, but most of the time it was 60 to 65 minutes. Give him a spell for 5 or 10 because they couldn't afford to, and they were struggling at times in the last, 12 months, and then put him back on it for the last 10 minutes. Madge goes, all right, front load your energy, big boy. Give me 30.
Yeah.
I'll give you a 20, 25-minute spell before and after half-time, and then you come back on and you seal the game for us. And, geez, it worked well for him. And he's got the luxury, too, there, Madge, of, I thought it was so impressive when I finally seen Payne running off the field with Kobe Hetherington. And they're bringing on Corey Jensen and Xavier Willison. Now, not every team gets that.
No.
Not every team has a rotation like that. So that's a real luxury for Madge.
Well done. For the Roosters, it just gets harder. You're playing the Premiers, the 4-time Premiers. You're already without Brandon Smith and Sammy Walker. The Butcher boys are not there. You haven't got them at the moment. Spencer Lanier, still suspended, comes back next week. And now, according to NRL.com, Roosters forward Lindsay Collins is set to miss tonight's clash with the Panthers. He has battled illness throughout the week. He's also recovering from a head cut. That was a bad head cut, actually, against the Broncos on Thursday. So they've offered to rest him. And local junior Hugo Savala is set to make his NRL debut. Now, he's not a forward. He's a young halfback.
Okay.
He's a young halfback. So, I mean, that's interesting that Collins is out and Hugo Savala comes in.
All right, so how's that going to work? We've got they had a small bench as it was last week with Zach Docker-Clay and Blake Steep, who are sort of middle forwards, but not the biggest.
No.
I feel like, who can move?
Well, Chad or Sandon. You can't have
move
Zach Docker-Clay,
No.
Sandon Smith, Hugo Savala. You can see if they win the game, back page Hugo Boss, can't you? If they get the job done
Love
then.
that.
What, you're still here? Well, you can see more on the Joel and Fletch socials and catch us live on SEN Radio, you beautiful humans.